Good morning, good morning. Hey, this is Brother Taylor. I'm here with the one and only Mr. Rickie Clark.
Yeah, he would say
And
that.
the one and only Rickie Clark. And y'all know where we at. It's the fourth Saturday of the month, right? So say it together. We at Streetside Classic. We are here at Classic Caffeine and Community. And with our community, we have Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark is the founder and here in Fort Worth of the My Brother's Keeper program and the My Sister Keeper program. And Mr. Clark, I know Saturday mornings are busy mornings. You're normally with the kids out doing some projects. You know, I want to thank you for spending that time with us today, and just not that time, but my relationship with you. I just want to thank you for having me piggyback on you this last couple of years, learning, listen to me. When I say it's heartfelt, you know what I mean. We would not be here if it wasn't for this young man. And so, can I tell a little story about the bookshop when we first?
Go ahead.
All right. So let me tell y'all the story, right? And I can imagine, how Mr. Clark was, looking at me and hearing me, So we had Doc Bookshop, that's on Meadowbrook in East Fort Worth, and y'all need to go check that out. Great place to do some reading, find your books here in the Metroplex, owned by two sisters. You want to tell the sister's name? Well, Miss Donna, what's that?
Donna and Danya.
Donna and Danya. All right.
Bookshop.
Doc Bookshop on Meadowbrook, East Side. East Side is the best side, And so I gave Mr. Clark a call, and Mr. Clark has always been up here, right? And I was on both sides of the fence.
Okay.
At the time, I was scared to call you. I pondered on calling you for a minute.
Okay.
I just didn't call you out the blue.
Right.
I was like, man, I don't know if I want to talk to this brother or not. I don't know if I'm there yet. You know what I'm saying? And so I wasn't 100 yet. But when I got to that point, I made that phone call. I made that phone call, and I remember we were there at Dr. Bookshop. You doing your thing, you moving around, and then I was talking. I'm following him around like a little mouse with cheese. You know what I'm saying? And then you finally just said, you didn't say much. You said, tell me what you want to do.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And I finally said, I want to do what you doing.
Right.
Now before we got on camera, we just mentioned it.
Right.
People come to you all the time.
Oh yeah, people come to me all the time saying, I want to do what you do. And I always ask them, do they want to do what I did to do what I do? And that's the question. Can you do what I did to do what I do? And oftentimes people see the work, but there's a lot of work to put in it. And so, yeah.
Man, I tell you what, I praise yourself. After I made that phone call,
and my response.
Come on with it.
Right.
'Cause I think he was testing me. I knew he was testing me. Everything is a test.
No, I was
right?
not even testing
but,
you.
Well, somebody tell, because this is hard. You told me, you said, you want to do it too? You sure you want to do it?
Yeah, I did.
All right, be here at a certain time. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And
That's true.
I can't wait. But the thing is, that phone call opened my eyes to a lot that goes on here in Fort Worth. There's a lot of great organizations out there. Organization Community Frontline come to mind at front. Girls and Boys, Girls Inc., Hope Farm, Clayton, Braver, Clayton Youth. Great people. And these are people I wouldn't have met. VIP, okay.
One Second Collaboration.
Yes, sir.
Cherry County Advocate Program.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known none of this if I wouldn't have made that phone call.
Okay.
To see the work that it takes out here in the community to raise our babies, our children out here, to keep them out of harm, to help mentor them so they can have a future. And so, how long have you been doing this?
As you can see, I'm 36 in the mirror. And I've been doing this work for 36 years.
36 years.
Yeah.
It's excellent work. It's work that's needed. Knowing we just named off some great organizations.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, if people come in and they want to do this work, but do they want to do what you did to get to this work?
Right.
Guys and young ladies out there, please do it. Find you a mentor.
Yes.
To help you get started. It is hard. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. It's hard work, but it pays off when you have that baby holding on to you, who want to be like you, who want to make his grades better, who wants to go to college. They don't even know about college. Some they just don't have that. They know about college, but they don't see themselves going to college.
Even for myself, when I would go in, I knew what I wanted to do. I would go to people, I would see what they do. I would even ask them to be my mentor. And they would say, yes, I'll be your mentor, but they wouldn't mentor me. They would just And I said, whenever I get in that position, I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to show them what I do. And so right now, any and everybody that's interested in doing, I'll give you the playbook. You
Right,
just got to
right,
do the work.
right.
But there were many people that I was like, well, I want to run. No, I want you to work for me. I was like, no, I don't want to work for you. I want to run my own program.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
see what you do so that I can run my own. It was like, oh, well, come and work for me. So I would tell people all the time, I don't work for them, but I will work with them,
Right,
so that
right.
I can learn to do what it takes. And then once I learn how to do it, then I'm off and running.
You said it. You're gonna show them the playbook, but it's one thing. I can tell you the school. We was at Dunbar, and you told the kid. You said, "I'm gonna give you the game. I just want you to give it back to me."
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to him.
You know
But
what I'm
not only do I want him to give it to him, give it back to me. I want you to give it back to me verbatim,
Right,
word for
right.
word, so I know that you have it. Oftentimes, people say I'm gonna give you something, but they don't explain it to you, so they make it superficial. I want to make it word for word, verbatim. This is what I do. This is how I do. This is how you can do it. Because if
Right,
you get
right.
young folks to doing what we do before they get our age, you'll be a lot more prosperous. All right.
Exactly. So, we said 36 years. So,
Yeah.
one of the great stories that, and I don't know if I told you or not, because when you first came here to Fort Wealthy Worth, and y'all did hear me, Fort Wealthy Worth, we
Yeah.
got to put that out there. You had the story about the Butler Project.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, my grandmother lived in the Butler Project.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
tell everybody, you have the story how the toilet paper. Tell
Yeah.
that story. Tell that story for us.
So,
No.
one of the ways I got into the Butler housing community, and I don't call them the Butler projects. I
Exactly.
tell them that a project is something you do in high school but never complete. It's a community. So it's not a project. It's a
Exactly,
community where
exactly.
families live. And so I end up getting here to Fort Worth because one of my first jobs was in the juvenile detention center in Dallas. And at the juvenile detention center in Dallas, I found that most of the kids in the juvenile detention center either came from public housing or psychiatric hospitals.
Okay.
So I ended up working at Green Oaks and Charter Hospital, and then a position came open for Butler Housing. I quit both the jobs, so this is sacrifices.
Right,
Quit both
right.
my jobs,
Wow.
moved to Fort Worth, right?
Yeah, Fort Wealthy Worth. Right.
And went into the Butler housing community. At that time, they were calling it the Butler Projects. And I would go into the housing community. For me, I'm from the south side of Chicago. The projects are different there than they are here. In Chicago, you got 22 stories with 22 apartments on each floor with a gate around it, all concrete. In Fort Worth, you got an upstairs and a downstairs, and they got a back door and a front door with grass. That's the difference. So to me, that wasn't a project, that was a townhouse. So I get to Butler, and people was like, wow, you like, and I loved working in there. So I'm working in Butler, and we're trying to create funding for the kids. Where am I going to get money from? Where am I going to get the funds to run these programs? Because
Exactly.
I worked for the housing authorities, but my work was over at 4 o'clock, but you wasn't changing lives. So I would, I tell this, but you can tell it publicly. I would actually sneak inside the building, put a rock in there, and bring the kids in there and stay inside the Butler Housing Community Center to 12 and 1 o'clock at night. And what we did to raise money is that we sold toilet paper. Yeah, that's right, toilet paper. I actually went to the wholesale district in Dallas, and we would buy the toilet paper and bring it back to the Butler Housing Community and wrap it in black paper. And we stick a quote in it that says, "You are not poor, you spend our money poorly. We just teach our dollars some sense." And we sold so much toilet paper that they wouldn't even sell it to us anymore. We like trucks of toilet paper. The Black Chamber of Commerce, D. Jennings, God bless his soul, one of the ones was my mentor.
Okay.
I would go to the Black Chamber, and he would have meetings, and he would stop his meeting and say, "Rickie up front, if you go there now, I think you'll still see that roll of toilet paper in his office, and he's passed, but the new person is in charge. It's still there, and the quote is in there." So we sold toilet papers, and we sold potato chips, homeboy, homegirl potato chips with quotes on it saying, say no to drugs, things like that. We taught them massive doses of African history, Latino history, taught them how to step, things like that. And it changed Butler. It was last called Mo Better Butler. So if you go there right now today, even though they're doing construction, trying to tear it down, you'll see on their rent office, there's a sign that says Mo Better Butler. And you'll see some kids on there jumping. This is my actually biological kids and some of the people who lived in the community at that time.
Okay. I forgot to ask you, did you need coffee? You need a
I'm
donut?
good. I drank coffee before I came in.
But
I am going to get them donuts.
Okay.
You don't know this, but Dunkin' Donuts is my favorite coffee.
Oh,
and my favorite donut.
well, I
So
want to shout out to him for sponsoring us, Dunkin' Donuts, Miss Lee over there. We met a young man today, the district manager, and I did not get his name, but we had a nice conversation. He's liked the work that we're doing out in the community, and hopefully we'll get him on, and hopefully they'll be a partner with us some
yeah,
more.
well, you bring them on. I buy Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and when I travel, I actually take it with me.
Okay,
All right.
and so let's dial into your work. Let's dial into My Brother's Keeper.
Okay.
Okay, let's elaborate. I heard you saying about stepping. I visit you. I help with over at the
Several schools.
yes, and saw the work,
Oh,
saw the discipline
yeah,
that you
yeah.
put into these young men. Let's elaborate on that perspective on the discipline part. The discipline is the beginning of everything.
Oh yeah.
I had to learn that when I went to the military because I was very, very undisciplined, unruly. And that's the first thing to success. If you got discipline, you can do some things. So let's dial into the discipline and
Okay.
aspect
Well,
of
one
the
of the
program.
things we tell young people is that knowledge without discipline is sheer nonsense. I'm going to repeat that. Knowledge without discipline is sheer nonsense. I can teach you the world, teach you all of that, but if you're not disciplined enough, then the knowledge means very little. So one of the things that we do with our MBK program on day one is begin with the discipline part. One of the things we do is we'll ask the kids when they first come in is, can I get all the men to stand up? And normally all the boys stand up. And what we do is remind them that they're not men, that they're boys, and that a man is a male that acts, thinks, and they're responsible. Anytime you're not acting, thinking, and living responsible, you're just a boy masquerading as a man. That gets their attention. Because
Yes.
if you would ask most people what a man is, they give you millions of questions. But once we break it down and they understand what this is not a program, it's a movement, they begin to act different. One of the things that we do is we'll raise our hand and say number 7. Number 7 is respect. We have about 13 agreements. We don't follow rules. We don't have rules. We have agreements. And our agreements are confidentiality, punctuality. You got to say punctuality, ask statements, get in touch with your feelings, respect. The list goes on.
I
do
like
it
the
on my
one.
favorite
I like the one where you have to excuse yourself without. Hey, you got to go take care of your business.
Oh,
This is
that's number 11. So you don't have to say what you have to say. Just
Yeah.
say number 11. So most of the agreements that we have, they're listed 1 through 14, and the youth will just respond to what it is. So one of them is, no put down. So that's like number 8. You can't. We won't say don't put down. Just say number 8,
Right.
or number
Right.
6, or number 7, and they understand the numbers, and we govern ourselves accordingly. So you don't have an incident where we saying shut up, be quiet. You have to put anybody in or put anybody out. They have the right to come in and out. And if you don't feel it, then you don't come in. So we say, hey, if you want to follow these agreements, step into the room. But if you don't want to follow the agreements, then you just step out and you just ask you to get in touch with your feelings and ask yourself a question. What's bothering me so much that I can't respect the next person or the next thing? And we get them to understand that when they have these anger cues, ask yourself a question. What is causing the anger and what does it feel? So once we do that, we use it. Other people say they so disciplined. I won't use the word that they're so disciplined. I think they just care. And once you
Right,
have humanity, then you can care for anybody and anything.
Right.
So
Well,
that's what we do.
I can tell you what, people out there who's watching this, we probably say we're going to be in Meadowbrook Middle School this upcoming school year, and we'll reach out to us so y'all be able to come visit and y'all will be able to see Mr. Clark at work. And so what he does in his program, My Brother's Keeper, My Sister's Keeper, you had a lot of jobs. Like we mentioned the juvenile service, we mentioned the hospital, we mentioned you went to the Butler housing, and so. But when My Brother's Keeper came up, how did you know you was geared to that? What inspired you to say, okay, I want this. I'm gonna do this.
During the time that Trayvon Martin was killed at the time, there was a lot of rallies in the community. But I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. I've been an Alpha for over 37 years as well. So service, so it may have something to do with what I do. But when that took place throughout the community, not just Fort Worth, but throughout the country, there were lots of incidents taking place dealing with young men of color, specifically African Americans, and Barack Obama made the challenge that he started this program called My Brother's Keeper. And it was a mentoring program. And this mentoring program is going in and change lives. And so when he called out the call, I responded. I began to do the work. And since I started doing the work, he asked for innovative programs. In 2016, when Barack Obama was leaving the White House, he asked for innovative programs to come to the White House. We were selected as one of those programs because what we do is different. There are hundreds of programs throughout the country, but what we do is different. We were able to realize that 50% of men of color drop out of high school.
50%.
50% of young men drop out of high
I
school.
almost came close.
65% drop out of college after 2 years, but 78% graduate if they join a fraternity or play a sport. So we began to start fraternities. We're probably the only one in the country, MBK program that does a fraternity. And so we started the fraternity in the schools. So we created this brotherhood. So once we created the brotherhood, we would say, what is MBK? My brother's keeper. When was it found? 2014. By who? Barack Obama. For what? To help young men of color transition from one life stage to another. We meet in circles because we're reminded that we are all leaders. We stand in V formation because we have each other's back. We stand from the shortest to the tallest to show evolution from boys to men. The kids participate in the program. We meet them on a weekly basis, and we stay with them till they graduate from college. Our encouragement is they join a fraternity when they get to college.
Correct.
And that has worked pretty well now. And now we have MBK and MSK, and I'm excited about it as well.
And MSK is my sister's
My sister's keeper. Yes.
And so, if anybody's out there, any young ladies who
made by by Michelle Obama's husband.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we always looking for young. We talk about young men all the time, but the young lady also need help. So
So we have approximately 365 young men and 198 women this last year who are registered, but we work with probably 700 kids on a weekly basis.
Okay. So, my next question, and we deal a lot of this when you work
Not
with
just me, I have a whole staff, so we'll talk about that
Right,
too.
right. So when we look at this and we see the issues out here that our kids, and we talk about traumas,
Yeah.
the issues that our kids are having. I'm wearing my
Where?
Square Taylor, my family reunion shirt. We just had a family reunion, right? This is the first one. This is the family reunion from all over California, North Carolina, New York. We all met here in For Wealthy Work a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't realize traumas that goes through our families.
Oh yeah, we talk about
And
that.
so now, all right, so we talk about trauma. I'm gonna put myself out there a little bit.
Okay.
So my great grandfather, Square Taylor,
Yeah.
he was a slave.
He was enslaved.
He was enslaved. Okay.
He was not a slave.
He wasn't a slave. He was enslaved, and so he got sold plantation. So guess what his job was?
What was his job?
He was a breeder.
Oh wow.
Exactly.
Didn't know that.
Didn't know that either. So I wonder if that had part of my trauma.
And you say that jokingly, but
I
it
know,
actually does.
because and I
It
know
does.
I spoke with you. I've been through sex addiction. I've been through sex counseling and all that. And it just hit me last week because I didn't know it a couple of weeks ago. So, and I'm like, man, I want to talk about this.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I want to talk. Great. This is 1820. Now, 1820, and he had his last child on record. He had 4 wives. All 4 generations was here
Right.
from the 4 wives, and at the family reunion. And so he had his last one like at 70-something years old, 1905 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So he was putting in work for a long time. And so, but if you dial back earlier, let's say my great grandfather or my grandfather, and then my mom, my uncles, those type of traumas, how it affect kids.
Oh, yeah.
Drinking.
Oh yeah.
All this good stuff.
Sex. All that.
The crime, the drug dealing, all this stuff. That we deal with. The ACE scores. That's what I'm trying to get
you
to.
want ACE. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's what because
Alright.
now
I gave you that.
exactly. So you scared me on this. You know that, right?
Oh, I don't know if I scared you, but what we did was we triggered it.
Okay.
That's the term
okay.
we want to use.
Okay.
We triggered it. And not only that, so if you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I want you to run
So
with it.
one
run
of the
with it.
activities that we do with our young people is that we give this test. It's called ACE. ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And in the ACE, they list 10 questions. And out of the 10 questions, if you just respond to one of them, it would identify the fact that you dealt with trauma in your life. And so it goes through several questions. I probably won't go through all the questions, but one of the questions for me was that have your mother and father were ever divorced or separated? I wasn't even able to answer the question because my mother and father were never married or separated. But the answer to that was that yes, they were separated because we didn't live together. So that affected me too
Right,
in my
right, right,
relationships. And
right.
so I would have relationships with women. I would break up and I wouldn't even feel bad about it. And I was wondering why didn't I feel bad about it, right? I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't have no remorse. Nothing. It's just like, and then I figured I learned it from my mama. I've never seen my mama fuss, argue. She break up a relationship. It's just gone. He's just gone. And so I took on some of those traits. That's not good, but I did. And I began to read and study and learn about what trauma is. And trauma can affect you, especially
Wow.
at a young age, and you don't even realize it. But there's nobody I know of that lives in America who have not experienced it at some point. I started getting that information when I read the book called "What Happened to You" by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce Perry. And
Okay.
so it talked about the fact that when we work with young people, we first question you want to ask is, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" You want to touch them and see what's. Well, it's not what's wrong with them. No, normally is what happened to them. So it ain't what's wrong with you, what happened to you. If you ask them what's wrong with them, sometimes they can become victimized by it. But if you ask them what happened, it's kind of relieving. So somebody really cares about it. So we went through the book about what happens to you from reading the ASA. And he came and we gave the ASA at one of our group settings, and they had several. Some people
Yes,
had
yes.
8, some people had 9, some
Man.
people in there had 10.
And that was me.
And one person only had 1, and he made the comment.
Yeah.
He said that I feel good that I only have 1. When there's some people who have had 9, some people have 10, but we reminded them that that 1 could be more effective than the whole 10.
Exactly.
And so that's when he became triggered, and we be having this conversation. And you're right. A lot of the traumas that we deal with is being passed down from one generation to the next. So after reading the book, It Didn't Happen to You, I went into the book, It Didn't Start With You. And in that book, It Didn't Start With You, you realize that these traumas that we're talking about, if you didn't address it at an early age, I can have it and pass it down to somebody else.
That's the key.
That's why you mentioned your granddaddy, because we used to say is generational curses, but really they wasn't generational curses. It was actually trauma being passed down from
Exactly.
one generation
Exactly.
to the next. And you want to know why I have this sex addiction, or why I steal, or why I fight, or why this one boy,
Anger,
he would
yeah.
anger keys. He would actually stab people with a pencil and didn't know why he was stabbing kids with pencils. And as he got older, he went and got therapy, not counseling. And the therapist asked him, anybody in your family ever did that? He was like, not that I know of. Well, actually, come to find out that his granddaddy had stabbed somebody in Oklahoma and killed him. But it was self-defense, but it bothered him so much that he stressed, became an alcoholic, drank himself to death, and passed it down to his grandson. Not his son, and missed the son,
And
went
hit
to the
the
grandson, and then he went and did the counseling. So that's why he made the comment, what did I get from my granddaddy? Hold up, I want to leave this with that. But after you read the book, that what happened to you, then I read It Didn't Start With You. But then after I Didn't Start With You, there's another book entitled The Body Keeps Score. And in that book, it talks about how we pass these traumas down and how we can change that trajectory. Because once you identify what your traumas are, and that's what we're doing with the young people we work with now, is helping them to identify what their trauma is, helping to identify when they have these anger cues and things like that. That trauma, there's 3 things you do in trauma, 4 things. You either fight, flight, or freeze. And if you fight, then you still fighting. If you froze, you still froze. If you ran, you still running. So if we don't deal with these traumas, we will not only affect us, it'll affect our bodies. You ever see people that seem to get overweight, or people having a lot of illness? It's because they're dealing with some inner trauma that they have never released. And when you release some of that, it goes. And I'll leave you with this one. And I know that's why you wanted to talk about it.
What's this?
But the book that was really interesting is a book entitled In My Grandmother's Hands. And he will identify that our bodies and our minds will heal so that we don't have to deal with the trauma. But that does not mean that the trauma has gone away.
Right.
And she gave a scenario about her hands from picking cotton. He asked her, why was her hands so rough? She said, I've been picking cotton all my life. But what does that have to do with it? That means that if you're picking those thongs and you keep picking it, eventually your hands became like calluses and healed itself. Not only will it heals the hand, it heals the feet, and it heals the body. The body will do it, but that doesn't mean the trauma's going away.
Right,
And now
right.
you're drinking and drugging And the reason why we drink and drugs is we're trying to get regulated to try to deal with it. But once you identify what it is, you can begin to let some of it go. I think Oprah told a story, as millionaire as she is, as rich as she is, she still puts a bell on her door or a chair by her door as an adult with security because of the trauma she experienced as a child. So I'll stop right there.
Well, I mean, we don't have to stop, but I just know when we went through it, I kept standing up. And I'm like, my childhood was pretty jacked. But I mean, we was a loving family. Don't get me wrong.
But you didn't know then.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
You thought it was normal.
Yeah. Christmas, 4th of July, just partying, having fun, just going through things. But you realize when you got older, I would have never known that until 2 years ago. Because that wasn't part of my life. ACEs and traumas.
I didn't either. It tripped me out.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And so, but at the same time, it says, like you mentioned, not counseling, but therapy, you can get over these things.
Oh yeah, you can get over it. So one of the things we tell people to do is to shake the family tree.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna write a book on it. When I talk about shake the family tree, meaning that there's some things going on in our families that we don't talk about. In most families, we use the term "what happens in here stays in here." In other words, you do not discuss family business on a public square.
Right.
But it's the secrets in our houses that's killing us. Let me repeat that. It's the secrets in our houses that's killing us.
Wow.
We don't go and tell anybody, but what we tend to do is want to sweep it under the rug. So when you go into somebody's house, it's not an elephant in the front room. It's trauma that's there. And you can see it in the kids. You can see it in the environment. And it doesn't change. But when you start to deal with the trauma, the dust begins to settle. Meaning that a lot of that, we thinking that this DNA, I just got my looks from my daddy and my talk from my daddy.
Height.
But the reality of it is, there are 98% of your DNA that you get from your father, which can be stress, which can be, and not just your father, your mother and your father, dealing with depression, stress, anxiety, a lot of things that they may have dealt with. That's why I use the term, it didn't start with you.
Right.
So it's passed down to you, right?
And not even knowing it.
You don't even know it. But if you don't address it, I remember this one in the book, it talks about this one couple. She became 35, successful, living healthy with her husband and the kids. And at 35, she just goes to her husband and tells him that the marriage is over with. And he like, what's going on? She was like, no, I don't want to be with you anymore. And come to find out, that happened to her grandmother at 35. And she followed her grandmother at 35. And when she got the therapy and the counseling, she went back and asked her husband, come back into the house because they were able to deal with that. So a lot of the issues that we're dealing with in our families and our lives, if you would just go back, you would see that it's reoccurring. And I would advise you to see where it came from and give it back to the person. Like, I forgive my mother for whatever it is she did, or my father or my sister. There's lots of folks that's going through. There's a lot of people that's strung out on drugs right now, and we will make the comment like, what's wrong with her? And the question is, what happened to her? So I've seen people, they like, what's wrong with her? Why they not using the drug? But what people don't realize, that girl could have been traumatized. She could have been abused by somebody, so we don't tell. So we just try to drink it away or smoke it away or drug it away, when the reality of it is you need to get some help and say something, because you can stop that person from being a predator to somebody else.
Exactly. Now, it's a lot. You've been doing it for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a lot of kids that you work with. And you have all the Fort Worth ISD high schools, right?
Yeah, every high school.
So you've been doing it for a long time. You got a lot of kids you work with, and you work with other programs, not just with Fort Worth ISD, but the My Brother's Keeper and the My Sister Keeper are in the Fort Worth ISD, right? So I don't want to just name one. Maybe give me one or two. What is the biggest barrier? What is the significant barrier that you see that our young men go through, and then one that our young ladies go through? What is the hardest thing?
I would think, and I'm going to speak about them from both perspectives.
Okay.
I think that what happens is that we're giving our young people a CB mentality in the cell phone world, if I could put that in that term.
Okay, CB.
And what I mean by CB mentality, CBs are always out, now we got
I'm a truck driver, so yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. But we living in a cell phone world, and our kids are learning things too fast, right? And what's the problem is that they're getting parts of it and not at all, not the whole. So they getting things in spurts. They get the 20 seconds instead of learning the definition of it or understanding where this information came from. They got the information, but they don't know the reference of the information.
Okay.
So I always tell people, always know the frame of reference and what they got it from. So Our kids are hearing things. So you would think that computers and all that stuff is cool. Well, it's not because they haven't thought.
Right,
They let
right.
something else and other things think for them. So I would think that was one of the big problems with boys and girls. But better yet, I think that they don't have enough examples, right? So what would
Okay.
be the problem with the boys? What would be the problem with the girls? To me, I don't think we have enough examples, and I don't think, this is an I statement, I don't think that we as adults culturally understand the kids. And when I say culturally understand, I'm not talking about black and white culture. I'm talking about the youth culture and there's an adult culture. We don't culturally understand them. My grandkids at my house right now, and they want to stay up all night, like vampires, and then they wake up in the morning like I left this morning. The TV's still on. They've been out all night. I mean, they ain't been out. They in the house, so I'm watching them.
They crashed out now, though.
But they crashed out right now,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But they don't know when Paw get home. You got to get up, clean up, do things. So you got to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
So I know I went around the corner, but let me take
No,
it
no,
back.
that's fine, that's fine.
Meet them where they are and not where you want them to be, to take them where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going to blame the victims for being victimized. They don't put the programs on TV. They don't put the music out there. They just have to deal with it.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to put it on them. But as
Exactly.
adults, we have to meet them where they are and not where we want them to be.
Right,
Right?
right, right.
And we have to understand that our kids are sponges and they soaking up what you do, not what you say. When we were young, we would tell our kids, do what I say, right? Not what I do. But our
Exactly.
kids are doing what we do and not what we say.
And that's one of the issues because,
That's what I'm.
they learning out here from them videos.
Yes.
And
They've been exposed to stuff that we didn't get exposed
Exactly.
to. You talk about you got a problem with it. Well, if adults have a problem with it, imagine what the kids are going through.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what you're talking about. What's the old saying? Kids having kids.
Yeah.
And all that. The rate now of what we were in the '80s. Doing stuff we shouldn't have been doing, but now it's like 3 or 4 times worse.
Well, there's more options. There's more
Exactly,
things. You didn't even know that exists. You couldn't even talk like that because you didn't even know that it existed, and you know what's going on. But now it's instant. You seeing stuff that's taking place in Africa and other countries right now in real time.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
think about that. And we didn't have that. So we'd have to wait. We'd have to read a newspaper. We'd have to wait till my sister hung up the phone. There was only one phone in the house.
Right.
You wouldn't hear all this stuff, but now you
Wow.
hear it instantly, and it was hard for us with then. But imagine you got all these thoughts at a young age. You got all these options at a young age. You got all this access at a young age. And if you don't, if you're
Process.
not disciplined, you don't know how to do that.
Exactly.
As
Well, I
can
tell
see,
you,
I'm
it's
excited
it's
about this, but go ahead.
no, like you mentioned, those are the barriers that we see. That's the things that we got to get over. How do, at my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper, how do the success get measured? How do you see your work out there? I know you have graduations. I know you're taking the field trips. What is something that you see and you see success through your young men and your young ladies who go through your program?
Well, anytime anybody giving you some funding, and they should be, and I'm not opposed to that, you should have something that you can calculate. And one of the things that we do is we measure the attendance, behavior, academics, and community involvement. What I mean by that, attendance meaning that when the kids come to school, attendance, if the butts are not in the seats, the kids, school don't even get funded.
Right.
So attendance, behavior, meaning that when the kids are at school, are they being put in, being suspended, in-house suspension, being disciplined, being written up. So we measure that. So attendance, behavior, and then academics. We not only do we want our kids to make good grades, A, B's, and C's. We're not even so much as C's, but we want to make good grades. But there are opportunities that we want to do. So we want to put them in AP classes. We want to put them in dual credit classes. You want to put them in upward bound programs, things like that. So we measure that. So if you go and look at our proposal, you would see that we focus on attendance, behavior, academics, and then community involvement. As he mentioned, every other weekend we involved in the community. We either doing something ourselves or we participating in somebody else's program, letting the kids see it. The opportunity means everything. So we do that. And then the other thing that you would see is that come graduation, when our kids complete the program, each one of our kids receive brand new suits, the male and the females, a shirt, tie, and everything like that. That means that you graduated. That means you did your Pell Grant. That means that you enrolled in either school or in the military. And then we stay with them till they graduate from from college. So we getting phone calls. I'm seeing it on Facebook. We're seeing the success, and
Exactly.
so I'm not bragging. It's a testimony. I would say we probably have, I would say 78 to 90% success rates. I don't know if you know Tylen Wallace, who plays for the Ravens. He was a part of MBK.
Okay.
I can go on with names of young people. We probably have about 14 to 15 young men who now work for the district who went through MBK.
Right. Right.
We got folks working in different industries that are called and say, "Hey, Mr. Clark, I'm now an accountant. I'm now a CPA." Yeah, so it shows. I mean, it's overwhelmingly showing,
And that's why we
I
need.
think, yeah, I
That's why we
think
need your program and more programs.
we need MBK and more programs. I talk about MBK, MSK, but the name of my company is called STEP, Strategies to Elevate People. And so we come up with strategies to elevate people. So not only do I do STEP for the district, I do MBK, MSK. I also work with Community Frontline, offer the cultural aspect, also with Tarrant County Advocate Program and the Doc Bookshop. And then I do motivational training, violence prevention training, and I write the books.
And also a speaker.
And a speaker.
And he's a speaker. So
Yeah, so I've written 2 books. So.
exactly. We're gonna get to the books. You know, you mentioned the every other weekend coming out into the community. So I just want to
We
put
will
it.
be working together.
Yeah, I want to put an ad. You know, TFT is starting their first class next week, the first weekend of August.
Yeah.
We're gonna be over at City on the Hill Church on the east side once again.
Yes, I like that sculpture.
You know, we're gonna be doing financial literacy. We're gonna be doing the automotive training, IT, construction, welding. You know, these are the things that we look at for our kids to have the trades to go out and get jobs for the ones who are not going to college.
Yeah.
You know, prayerfully and hopefully they will go to college. Don't get me wrong. You know, but for the ones who don't, at least they can go out there and be a journeyman on somebody's
Nowadays,
job.
you tell them. I used to always push college, college, college. It may not be, they may not be reformed, but they may not be able to afford it.
Right.
What we
right.
want them to do is to go and reach their wildest dreams, and whatever we can do to help them do that, we want to help them.
Outstanding. And I'll tell you a little shout. So we got we got Golden Rule, and we got Miss Angela over there. She's doing some work over there. Her company, Proco Construction, they all on board by teaching our youth about construction.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, we want these young men to learn what a hammer is,
Yeah.
a sawzall, you know, taping bed, painting. Just something that we're going to be teaching. Stay tuned. Check us out on our social media. Fort Wealthy Worth. Our website is tftcommunity.org. We are changing that up. Mr. Dexter, who's behind the camera, redesigning a new website for us. And some of our sponsors, we want to thank them, of course, Streetside Classic. But we have LKQ, we got LMC for our automotive program. Locally, we have Mr. Voles, NBD. We got some great sponsors. We'll come back to some more here in a minute. But let's dial into the books.
Okay.
You know, let's dial into the books. You know, of course I have one, and I read it when I was on vacation. I need a vacation now. I wish I had time to take a vacation before we started this our class, but that's not going to happen. But tell me about the 2 books. Let them know the names of them,
Okay.
why you written them, where they can purchase them. And I believe he's reaching for the bag. You got 2 of them right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully
So-
the camera gets them.
The book is What My Daddy Should Have Told Me: Life Lessons for the African American Male. If you can see that. And all right, and then I brought another book entitled From Kindergarten to 12th Grade: Can Equal 13 Years a Slave. And I'll explain both. I mean, I wrote this book because the fact that I met my son before I met my daddy. Let me repeat that. I met my son before I met my daddy. I had a child when I was 15 years old. I met my daddy when I was 16 years old. Right?
Right.
So I wrote this book, and then I met him, and I've seen him 27 times before he died. And I'm not mad at my daddy, but I asked my daddy, when did he meet his daddy? He said he meet his daddy until he was 21 years old. So I said, what did y'all do? He said, we got drunk together. So we've been dealing with this trauma for quite some time. That's
Right.
probably why I don't drink right now, and never drink. So I talked with my daddy, and he would say things. There was a lot I wanted to ask him, but he had passed. So I wrote the book because I wanted to know about his spirituality. I didn't know if he had a relationship with God before he passed. I didn't know that. Education. I know he had some education because he worked as an engineer.
Okay.
My history. So one of them is called My History. I knew anything about my history. I knew other people's history, but I didn't know my history. So that was important. Child support. Remember, I had a baby. I was on child support before I got enrolled in college. And now I'm in college with child support plus school loans. So when I graduated from college, I was in debt from the time I came out by the time my son came out the womb.
Right.
What to do when stopped by the police. I had been stopped by the police and didn't know what to do. I thought I wanted to be a police officer, but once that police stopped me and traumatized and said some things to me, I didn't want to do that anymore. And money. And that's why I like what y'all doing for worthy work. I didn't, for wealthy work. I didn't know how to manage money, and I still don't know how to manage money. I know how to make it, but I don't know how to manage it.
Okay.
And then manhood. What's a man? And so it was really 7 essays written by 7 people about 7 topics. So I wrote 7 essays, and I had 7 friends that write 7 essays. And then it told me 7 books, 7 documentaries, and 7 movies to talk about to tell you what it takes to be a man. So that's why I wrote this book.
Okay.
This book, I wrote it because I'm speaking throughout the country, all over the country. I'm at TCU, I'm in other conferences, courageous conversation, and always ask the question when I work with young people, especially people of color. I'll ask them, can you name 5 black men who did something great? But Martin and Malcolm can't be one of them, and they can't play sports, they can't be entertainers, and most of them can't do it. I say the same thing to Mexicans, Latinos, name 5 Mexicans who've done something great. Cesar Chavez can't be one of them. They can't do it. So when I read the book, I wanted to give them information about folks that look like them, right? What have my ancestors done? If you went to school in America and read the books from kindergarten to 12th grade, what would you think about black people? All we really know is that they dealt with slavery, and nobody begins their history in slavery. So what we do is we try to begin our history in a state of freedom, because it's only when you begin your history in a state of freedom that you can come to properly understand your role. All Africans who begin our history in 1619 may never solve our people's problem. In order to solve our people's problem, you must begin your history in Africa. So I began to give them some information about our history. Again, 7 chapters. I had 7 friends to write an essay. Inside the book, I have 50 books you can read about our culture, 50 movies you can watch, and 50 documentaries. But what I went a step further, I gave you 50 questions with 50 answers. Okay. So that when they ask you, what's the original name of Africa, we will realize it's called Alkebulan. And Alkebulan literally means Garden of Eden, or Mother of Mankind, or the original name of Egypt. We call it Egypt, but it's really Kemet, and Kemet means land of the blacks. Right. So we go in depth, and the kids love it, the parents love it, the teachers. So I lecture a lot on these 2 books. And I'm working on my 3rd book entitled Shaking the Family Tree.
Shaking the Family Tree. So when you mentioned about Kemet and Africa, that got me to thinking about the presentation that you do. All right, so the PowerPoint presentation, man, this is fire. I'm telling you right now, it's fire, right? And so you do that at Doc Bookshop.
I do it Doc Bookshop throughout the country. Right. I'll go places. I have a 22 slide PowerPoint presentation that talks about our history. And it starts with asking the question, how old is man? And then I move from how old is man to the fact that Africa is the only continent that don't float on water, meaning that all other continents float on water. Africa is rooted to the core of the earth with 34 natural resources, 28 in Africa. So do the world need Africa? Do Africa needs the world? Right. And then I have pictures because I believe that images dictate your reality.
Yeah. It's powerful. So if y'all can catch them, where do you see your schedule at when you're at Doc Bookshop? So I'm just it's powerful. It's a powerful presentation.
So I'm at the bookstore the 3rd Thursday of the month.
Thursday
no matter what I do, the 3rd Thursday of the month, I keep it scheduled. It's free. It's open to the community. It's sponsored by Community Frontline. So we're in collaboration with MBK, Community Frontline, the Doc Bookshop, you name them all, and we in there. We do these presentations in the community every third Thursday of every month. And then you have to look at my webpage, rickieclark.com, and see the other places that I attend.
Okay.
That's what we do.
And on that date, what time is that?
Oh, it's 6:30 to 7:30.
6:30 to 7:30. Okay. And one of his sayings, he's gonna start on time
and end on time.
So that's one of the things. And so,
sorry,
God bless you. Need some snitching? Thank you.
This is air conditioning.
Hey, they give opportunity to go ahead and talk about some more sponsors. So As y'all know, we have a 1984 C10 truck getting built with Fort Worth ISD, and I'll name off the rest of the sponsors that we have. You just learned about the truck getting built,
Oh wow.
and so he had the opportunity to walk through Streetside Classics, the candy store is what we call it, and so the people who has helped us out with this truck build is going to be Amazon, Rocket Tow, Mr. George and them over at Rocket Tow, Painless Performance, God bless you, God bless you. Sherman Williams, we want to thank them. Summit Racing, we collaborating with our new race team, RMS Stallions, out in Crescent, Texas. Can't wait to get on the track. Can't wait to do that. JJ Upholstery over in Haltom City, want to thank them, and Mr. Shorty, Shorty's Dream Shop. We want to thank them, and then for our veterans, we're gonna be feeding the veterans. We've done it also last year. We want to thank Selective Seasoning here out of Fort Worth. We just want to thank all of them for supporting us, and we have some more. Go to our website tftcommunity.org. Check us out on our social media, Fort Wealthy Worth, and our YouTube, Fort Wealthy Worth. So your books. Let's jump back into the interview. So your books, they inspired you through lessons that you learned, things that you wanted to teach.
Yes, sir.
And so when these youth, I know you give them to the youth. I've seen you give them out.
Yes.
You do this thing where you're giving out money.
Yeah, I do.
You give out money. You challenge these young men to write a paragraph or to write a rap, a song, or lyrics or something that they know that they want to become, and because we do money.
Yeah.
So money inspires a lot of people, not just. Hey, you gonna step away? Well, Mr. Rickie is stepping away real quick, and so we do financial literacy. One of the things that we look at is that our kids are not going to college; they need a trade, but if they can go make money, but if they're not doing the right thing with their money, and so that's one thing we want to do. We want to teach families, our youth, and members of the community financial literacy, so we can build generational wealth out here in the community. And so
I can talk about that.
you can talk about that. All right, Mr. Clark is back now, and
So yeah, I'm a certified trainer too for NFTE, National Foundation for Teaching and Training Entrepreneurs. So I've been doing that for quite some time too. I went to the College of New Rochelle as well as Babson College and got certified through NFTE. And so we teach the kids about owning and operating their own business. We teach them entrepreneurship, and he mentioned about the money. So what I do is I do challenge them. We'll go in there and we're asking what are the four parts of the business: manufacture, wholesale, retail, and service. We asking what are the 6 types of business. And when we teach, we do a style of teaching which is called call and response, meaning I'm going to give you the information, you just give it back to me. So we would ask some questions like, what is ROI, return on investment? What's the formula for ROI? A minus B over B times 100, things like that. So when we're teaching them these terms, so we'll go through all the terms, because I believe if you can learn a rap record, you can learn anything. Right. So we go in there to the books, we get the chapters, I get the information, I pull out keywords, and I use it in a rhythmic terms. Tell me this, and so he tell you there in the class when they hollering it out. What are the 5 parts of business? What are the 4 types of business? And they doing it, and they doing it in unison, and it brings. It's like it brings the energy out in the classroom, and they're able to walk out of there saying, "Mr. Rickie, I learned more in one day than I learned all year long." It's like, how did you get that information? He's amazed by it, and I think that it's in him. You just got to find a way to get it out. Right.
Well, see, when we did that, now we're at Dunbar for at this class. I know we did it at Eastern Hill also.
I've done it at every high school.
Exactly, and so, but the one part that got me, and I always pride myself. But not, and I shouldn't have. Don't get me wrong. I was totally wrong, screwed up, jacked up, right? But you have a phrase in there. Can a drug dealer be a businessman?
Oh yeah, it's one of the questions that we ask. Is can a drug dealer be a businessman?
And the answer is no.
And the answer is no.
Right.
And we answered it no because we asked a question. So some of the things he's telling you. So we would ask the question, what is an entrepreneur? So when the kids answer the question, they got to answer it verbatim. So an entrepreneur is a person who takes the risk of owning and operating his or her own business. What makes a successful entrepreneur? Buy low, sell high, and keep good records. Well, can a dope dealer be a successful entrepreneur? And the answer is no. And he like what? Why they can't be successful? Because as a dope dealer, you may be able to buy low, you may be able to sell high, but you can't keep good records. And you have to have all 3. And then
Yeah.
the kids realize that's not a good route to go
Yeah,
in.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So because you can't keep your records,
No.
your customers ain't gonna be on record, that
Right.
they, and you're not going to the IRS with it,
So we teach
It's,
them that.
and so that opened my eyes, and also I saw how it affected the kids, because the kids, they look at these young guys out here perpetrating to be businessmen when
Right.
they're not. You're
That's
not a
right.
businessman. You're a two-bit hustler like I was.
Right.
I'm calling myself out. I'm
Yeah.
calling y'all out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But it's a means to an end. I'm not
Yeah.
tripping now,
Yeah,
because
but they learn, bro.
yeah,
And then you ask them like, what does the manufacturer do? You know, the manufacturer makes the parts, sells it to the wholesaler. The wholesaler sells it to the retailer. The retailer sells it to the consumers. But reminding that young people are the number one consumers in the world
yes,
because we buy more and manufacture less.
exactly, exactly. So, I mean, it was so many parts that actually just touched me in my life walking through the last year or so in the schools with you. And I didn't think I'm thinking I'm going to learn mentorship. I'm about other kids,
Right.
but I'm actually, this stuff is for adults also. It
Yeah.
ain't just for the kids, y'all. You know what I mean? So it's for adults who's actually trying to better themselves and know themselves and want to make a difference. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So as you do public speaking, as you do consulting, and I appreciate a lot that you do and all that you do in the community. This last question here: um, how you looking to make a difference in the communities, particularly regarding the youth, as an education consultant and as a public speaker? Um, what advice do you give to
I think
anybody out here?
I'm quoting Kwame Nkrumah. He says, go to the people, live amongst them, learn from them, plan with them, start with what they have and build on what they know. Let me repeat that. You go to the people, live amongst them, learn from them, plan with them, start with what they have and build on what they know. I did it in Butler. I do it in every community that I go to. I love the people. In order to help the people, you got to love the people. And I love the people so much that I'll do whatever it takes to help them. And I don't want to just talk about it. I want to be about it. I want to be an example. That's why I live in the place where I live at. And like Rickie, why I chose to live there. So they can find something they can touch, see, and feel. We can't put this information out about how we can make changes and then don't give them access to it. They always
Right,
say, give a
right.
man a fish, you fed him for a day.
Right,
Teach him how to fish, you fed him for life. But you also got to give them access to the street.
And see that access part, because we work with these kids, but then when they see you at Walmart, hey, how you doing? How you doing? See you at AutoZone or wherever in the community, you're
I
real
stopped
to
at
them.
McDonald's. Hey, Mr. Rickie, I want to be the kids that came in here today. It's like, oh, you the one that run MBK.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I heard about it. Yeah. And I love doing that work.
Exactly,
So I'll
exactly.
continue to do it. Thank y'all for having me. And if it's
Oh, yeah.
anything that I can do for Streetside Classic, for Fort Wealthy Worth,
There you go. There you go.
just call them number 7.
Hey, I
And
got
I'll
you,
be
brother.
there.
I got you,
All
brother.
right?
I do thank you. I do thank you, man.
Appreciate it. Thank
And
y'all for having me.
hey, once again, guys, we're here at Streetside Classic. Our monthly, every fourth Saturday, we're here at our Classic Caffeine and Community. And today we had we was pleasure to have Mr. Rickie Clark here with us, with my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. Just stay tuned, guys. We're about to have a great fundraiser coming up. We mentioned funding earlier. We're a new nonprofit, and we're looking and seeking funding. We did our first grant with the CCPD. Prayfully and hopefully that rock and rolls.
Oh, you'll get that.
Oh yeah, and so but the fundraiser, I believe we set a date for October. Some came over me to do maybe a Halloween theme
Just let me know what I can do to help.
fundraiser. I think that'll be pretty cool. So, but yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll, and we're gonna get your kids up here.
Come on with it. I can't wait.
So we're gonna take a little tour out here, check out some cars. Oh, I forgot to ask.
Yeah.
What's your number one car?
Oh, my number one car happens to be the Porsche. I
Porsche?
like a Porsche. You
Okay.
can't call it a Porsche, but a Porsche.
Porsche, yeah. Okay,
I like
okay.
the Porsche
I-
that I seen right there. So.
Okay, what about old school then? Because y'all see you in those slant back.
No,
I see,
old school. I'm liking those Corvettes, bro.
Okay,
I used to
okay.
love those Corvettes even
Okay.
when I was young. And
Yeah.
I'm saying, and then if you all haven't came up to the Street Classic, the prices are not ridiculous. They well worth it. If I was you and you like classic, come to Street Classic.
Hey, you heard it all. Mr. Rickie Clark, Brother Taylor, Fort Wealthy Words. Hey, we'll see y'all next time. Thank you very much. Y'all
Thank
stay
you.
blessed.